Coming up tonight, the Symphony of the Seas sails into beautiful Puerto Rico for the first time ever. We sit down with a chef to find out how all the food comes to be on board, and Royal Caribbean ups the ante when it comes to safety. It's all coming up, so let's set sail. Welcome to Day 5 of the Cruise View from onboard the Symphony of the Seas. Today was Wednesday, December 5th, 2018. And we do have a couple top stories today, all revolving around the same theme, and that is safety. Big topic on the MSC Seaside last week, and luckily it is not a topic here on the Symphony of the Seas, but it is one that still is good to discuss. And it's something that I wanted to bring up yesterday, but forgot to, so I'm going to bring it up today. And that is the extent to which Royal Caribbean is going through to ensure the safety of all passengers and everybody on board this ship. So yesterday morning, as I went out on the pool deck, there was not one but two drills going on at the time. The lifeguards took over one of the pools, I believe it was the main pool, to conduct a full-on life-saving drill. They had several lifeguards out there assisting with removing a human dummy from the pool and getting him on a stretcher and taking him away safely. And in the adjacent pool, the sports pool, they were doing some lifeboat drills as well. So over there they had the inflatable lifeboats in the pool, and they were testing how to inflate them, get into them, all those kinds of things. So there was not just one, but two different safety drills going on yesterday morning. And that was just the beginning of all the safety items that got tested out yesterday. They also, while over at the zip line, I mentioned I did that in the afternoon, there was one incident that occurred on the zip line where a passenger was screaming so much when they went across the zip line that they actually passed out. So they lost grip, let go of the zip line, and were basically just dangling there as they continued down the line towards the end. And of course, that is not a very safe situation, but the sports team immediately jumped into action. They got on the radio and informed the rest of the staff. They were there to grab the passenger as they reached the end and ensure their safety. And immediately, other members of the sports staff rushed to grab a wheelchair, closed down the zip line. Members of the sports team that were working the desk, as well as the Ultimate Abyss, who couldn't even see the zip line at the time, were immediately headed over to provide assistance. Within a matter of seconds, security was on hand to help provide additional assistance and get extra resources that were needed. Pretty much, there was an incident, they radioed, and within seconds, everybody jumped into action, and it was resolved as if nothing had really gone on. And it was so well handled, in fact, that within a couple minutes, the passenger went on the zip line a second time to try and complete a successful run, which she did successfully do that time. But it just showed how well prepared the zip line, and not just zip line, but sports staff in general, along with the security team, are on board the Symphony of the Seas. They are well prepared and they are ready to go at any time, and security is everywhere in the ship. Everywhere you look, you see security guards just keeping an eye on things and always within close distance to jump into action if something were to occur. That isn't something that we saw last week, and that is a big thing because there is a zip line on the seaside as well. And not only are they ready to handle these incidents when they come up, but they are proactively preventing incidents from happening. They're so strict with their policies that you cannot have necklaces, you cannot have anything that is not physically attached to your body. Even if you have a ring that you can't get off your finger, they will tape it to ensure that there's absolutely no chance that it can come off. They do not allow anything that could possibly fall. If that passenger had been holding a GoPro at the time, she certainly would have dropped it and dropped it right down on the boardwalk and potentially injured somebody. But on the seaside, that was the standard way that people went. Everybody was holding something in their hands. There really wasn't that level of precaution to ensure nothing could fall. And if a passenger had passed out there, By the time they got to the other end of the zip line, there's just one guy waiting up there, and there's no security in sight, no other support staff around, really nobody else to even provide assistance there. So it would have been a very different story had this happened just 1 week ago. And continuing on with the safety and the zip line, last night when I went back to my cabin, they were actually replacing the entire zip line. So I don't know how long that zip line has been installed, if it's still the original since the ship set sail, or if they replace it every so often. But last night they had sections of the boardwalk shut down with sports staff down there, as well as members of sports staff up on the sports deck going through and replacing that zip line with a brand new one, just to ensure the absolute safest line possible. And keeping to that safety theme, I had one more incident today to mention. While in the Windjammer, prior to it opening for dinner, I was photographing and videoing some of the food that was laid out for the dinner service. And while in there, it was about 2 or 3 minutes before dinner service started, so all the workers were rushing around trying to get final preparations in place. And the music cut out in the entire Windjammer. And you could just hear from the kitchen area, from that central area in the middle of the Windjammer, all these calls of an alert and basically people shouting and trying to get into action. And then a second later, the alpha call came across the system for an alpha in Wonderland down on deck number 12. So they had no idea what the alert was. They just knew because the music cut there must be some kind of alert, or maybe they even have something that tells them when an alert's coming. But one down in Wonderland for an alpha likely has no impact or relevance to the workers up in the kitchen area of the Windjammer, but it didn't matter either way. They were ready to jump into action the moment there was any chance of something occurring. And that just shows you the level of not only safety but preparations and just awareness of not just what they're doing but what's going on around them, what's happening throughout this whole ship, to ensure everybody is absolutely as safe as possible at all times. So then, continuing on with today, our location today was Puerto Rico, our second port of call of this sailing, and we had a scheduled arrival for 7 a.m. this morning. And it was only a half-day visit, so this afternoon we had an all-aboard at 1:30 for a 2 o'clock departure. We ended up departing a little bit early, about 1:50 p.m. That got us past the fort at about 2:20 p.m. after taking a very kind of awkward slide 180 job out of the pier in order to get headed in the right direction. Unlike last week, we had just one other ship in port, and this one was the Sea Dream 2, which is part of Sea Dream Yachts. That is a ship that I've never seen before in port, so that is a new one. It was a very small ship compared to ours, obviously, but it was docked right over at the terminal where we often see the Carnival ships docked. For the weather, we had a sunrise at 5:42 a.m., and this evening we had a sunset at 4:57 p.m. It seemed to go on forever. It lasted about 45 minutes with just some glowing light in the sky. It wasn't a spectacular sunset, but it was certainly a very long one. And the listed high for today was 82, but once again it felt hotter. It was a very hot day out, and it was supposed to be sunny, but it was actually cloudy almost the entire day. There were a lot of storms out there right across the bay. The entire island seemed to be covered in storms and rain. You could just see the rain falling. It never came to the pier. We never got wet over on our side, but you could see it right across the bay, and that was very similar to what we saw last time with the Anthem of the Seas, where we were seeing tons of rain across the bay, but stayed primarily dry on our side. Once we set sail this afternoon, you continued to see all that rain over the island while it stayed pretty much dry out to sea for us. For the winds, they were about 12 knots, but it didn't seem like it was consistent. For the most part, it was a very calm day today. but occasionally those winds would just pick up and you could just feel that front like a storm was about to come in. But as I mentioned, we never got that rain, just that wind that would pick up from time to time. And the seas today have been mostly calm, nothing too big. You can feel a little rocking of the ship tonight, but nothing major. So then moving on to the compass. For today, it was a port day, which meant less going on. For me, that meant enjoying this empty ship once again, and it was another very empty day today. Everybody seemed to pour out of the ship the moment we got into port, and all throughout the ship, the promenade, the pool deck, it was just an empty, beautiful ship to check out. Then from 10:30 to 12:30, I did take a little bit of time to step out of the ship and check her out from the street side. Oftentimes you head to the left since nobody else is in port. I also went to the right once getting off, down past the other terminal, and there's actually a very nice little park down that way. It looks relatively new. I'm not sure if Puerto Rico has any plans to upgrade the area by the pier that we always seem to dock at, but down there it certainly looked like a nice little park that would be perfect for right in front of the ship, as the current shopping situation on that sidewalk can become a little bit chaotic, whereas down there it's just a very beautiful park with tons of open space. And from up on the ship you can actually see that if you followed it even farther down, there was a little fair of some kind going on. So then once on board, took some time to watch that departure, of course, explore the ship a little bit, and then it was time for dinner. So tonight, the day 5 menu, we had minestrone for our appetizer along with the Vidalia onion tart. The minestrone was something that I had in the Windjammer yesterday. It was slightly different. Yesterday was more of a spaghetti noodle. This was a macaroni noodle. But beyond that, it was the same soup as yesterday. The Vidalia onion tart is something I've had before in the Anthem, and it tasted pretty much identical to that one. It looks almost like a little bit of a quiche, but it does have a very onion flavor to it. For my entree today, I went with a spaghetti bolognese, one of the classic items. It was the lobster night as well, since it was formal night, the second formal night of the sailing. And then for dessert, I went with the baked Alaska, always a classic, and that was absolutely delicious. For my second dessert, though, I went with the molten chocolate cake, something that is often inconsistent, and unfortunately this one wasn't the greatest. It was a very dense, drier kind of cake with syrup poured over it. It wasn't like we saw on the Seaside, where it had that very nice core of hot chocolate inside, and that's what it really should be. It should be that lava that kind of erupts. And unfortunately with the Royal Caribbean one, it often is just a chocolate cake with some syrup over it. So I did go to the main dining room for dinner, but prior to that, as I mentioned, I was up in the Windjammer and I checked out their setup. Tonight was formal night, and they had an absolutely incredible setup up there with tons and tons of desserts. I told you about how good their desserts were the other day. Well, today they were even better up there. They took over an entire section just for the desserts. And they even moved some of the items that should have been in that section over to the single counter, where a lot of solo travelers will sit to eat, and utilize that as additional buffet space. Then following dinner, I had a series of entertainment items tonight. Starting at 8:45 in the Aqua Theater, I went to a showing of Hiro. Our official showing, of course, was the 10:45 showing the other night that was canceled, rescheduled for 7 o'clock tomorrow. 5:30 dinner, 7 o'clock show does not work, so we made sure we hit the 8:45 show tonight. And just before it started, it looked like there was a good chance of it getting canceled again. That water started to slosh back and forth, overflowed the sides of the pool onto the steps and the ground, but luckily it settled down just enough that they were able to successfully perform the show tonight at 8:45. So this time I sat down in the 5th row, down in the bottom of the Aqua Theater. There are two kinds of seats in the Aqua Theater. You've got some that look almost like beach chairs, others that are just a wooden bench. Always thought the beach chairs are the comfortable ones, and they certainly are, but the wooden benches are actually the best seats in the house. The way that the seats line up, there's about a 2-inch difference between them, So if you're in the wooden bench seat, you have a great view over the top of the head of the people that are sitting in those beach chairs, while the person in the beach chair is basically a hair above your head and really almost in line, so it truly affects their view. So you really want to sit in those bench seats if you go to the Aqua Theater. In terms of seeing Hiro from down low, that was the first time I've seen it low. I saw a few times from the back of the theater, saw it once from up on the rock climbing wall, but sitting down there in that fifth row right in front with the performers directly in front of you is a completely different experience, not just because you're closer, but in the way the lights affect it. When you're in the back and you're off to the side, you see the lights, it lights things up, it affects the way things look. But sitting in the front of the theater there, those lights shine directly at you, and there are times where the lights blind you or they create effects of silhouettes in the athletes that you're looking at, or they just make people vanish because of the way the lights are. And you really don't get that same effect for any other spot. It really is something you can only see if you're right in front of the theater, down in the lower level rather than in the back or in a distance. And even after all the times I've seen it, Hiro is still a very entertaining show. My personal favorite scene is the moment that the disco ball drops out. That is a truly incredible moment to see, the way that they have it all scripted and choreographed, in addition to the technology elements that are programmed to make it look like it just all kind of crashed and burned at the same time. And then the way that it slowly kicks back up just truly adds something special to the show that's unlike any other part of that show. And as soon as that was over, I immediately ran over to the Royal Theater, because at 9 o'clock, just 15 minutes behind Hiro, was the first performance of Flight for the sailing. So I needed to make sure I got over there to see the end of it, catch that grand flight sequence. This time I was up at the balcony level in the very back to see it, since I was so late to the show. But I wasn't as late as I could have potentially been, because I know the little secret to get there. If you are in the Aqua Theater, you know it's a bit of a hassle to get out. If you got somewhere to go, you're going to be waiting a little bit. Everybody funnels out through those two rows, right up through the stands, and then down the boardwalk, which really caused a traffic jam. If you have to get somewhere like, say, the Royal Theater, though, if you head across the road to one of the sides, you can then go up to the top on the sides, and then take the stairs down to the jogging track, which is you a quick instant route right over. So for me, there was no promenade traffic, no boardwalk traffic, just straight clear path to the Royal Theater, and I don't think there would have been any other quicker way to get there than that. So I got there with about 10 minutes left in that show, and as I mentioned, that last scene is truly incredible. Just seeing the Wright brothers plane come out of the stage and over the audience is something that's unlike anything in any other show. It looks a little bit smaller than I expected. I was expecting it to be very massive. It actually was a fairly small looking plane for what I was expecting, because I think I was expecting something a little more along the scale of Columbus, which was an absolutely huge ship. So this was a bit of a smaller plane, but it's still incredible to see it moving around, the way that it flies around the theater and how close it gets to everything without making any contact. And so that was a 9 o'clock show, got it done about 10 o'clock, and just 45 minutes later, still in the Royal Theater, was the Love and Marriage Game Show. Hosted by Abe, it of course is the classic Royal Caribbean show that is on most cruise ships, not just Royal Caribbean. Features the classic love and marriage style game, asking questions, switching roles, and seeing how many people get the answers right. And as we saw in the Harmony of the Seas, Abe knows how to run this game perfectly, how to handle the guests, and find that line to just sort of hang yourself over. And it was an absolutely hilarious game. The old couple won, as often happens with these, but they truly knew their stuff more than anyone else, and as always, it was absolutely hilarious. If you're into that kind of live stuff, those live games, never know what's going to come, always try the Love and Marriage Game Show. A few times you'll get a little bit of a bummer game where nothing truly hilarious happens. The contestants aren't that great, but that luckily was not the case tonight. We had a great set of contestants competing, So that was 10:45, lasted about till 11:30, and then it was right across the entertainment place because at 11:30 in Studio B they started the Red nightclub experience. That of course was introduced on the Anthem of the Seas, fully taking advantage of 270, its aerialists, its dancers, all the great stuff that 270 has to offer. And then it was brought on to the Harmony of the Seas 2 years ago in the Studio B venue, taking over that venue, adding some drapes, some lighting, some extra effects that really kind of make it a little more than a nightclub. But compared to the Harmony of the Seas tonight's was pretty dull. On the Harmony, they had all kinds of little mini events that happened throughout the night. So you'd be listening to DJ and all of a sudden a random scuba diver started walking around the venue. Or a couple from like the 1920s are suddenly wandering around fighting with each other. They didn't have any of that today, and even the lighting was fairly minimalistic. So it was, for the most part, just the DJ, the same thing that's been in the attic every night, just moved next door. It really wasn't anything truly special compared to the other shows. And so that was 11:30. It went until the late hours of the night because it was the nightclub experience replacing the attic for the evening. But that really was the end of the day. There's truly nothing else going on beyond that. Tomorrow morning is, of course, Labadee. But first, we do have one interview tonight. I got to sit down with the executive chef on board the Symphony of the Seas to find out how he makes all the incredible food on board happen.
And the man with the hat.
Today I am joined by Chef Rijo, who is the executive chef on board the Symphony of the Seas. Thanks for joining me.
Pleasure to see you. Thank you.
Could you provide a little bit of background on yourself?
Well, like you said, my name is Hiro German. I come from Dominican Republic. And I work for this strong and the best company in the world for 27 years. How I start to work in the cruise line? Very simple. I come from the family that we are 4 brothers. And every time I see my mother cooking food by herself, and as I fall in love, I said, why only you cook alone? And from one day I said, I need to help you. I want to cook something. And I start to cook with her and make us homemade food, a little bit that, a little bit that. And passion's coming through to my life. And I decided to go right away after when I growing and to go to the school about culinary and food. And I moved to Germany for a while. And after what I did, I got to Miami, and then Miami I moved to New York. From New York I moved to France, and then France I moved to Paris, and then I stayed there a little bit in France, a little bit in Paris, and then finally I decided to go England, and I finished my apprentice in all this place, and here I am now, working for this company already for 27 years.
So how did you first connect up with Royal Caribbean?
Well, a friend of mine was a chef at one place in Dominican Republic we call Casa de Campo, very strong resort. I saw that he has some connection and work. As a friend of them working also in cruise line, and I tell him, I want to try to work in the ship. I say, really, you want to try? Yes, why not? I give my resume to them, and after a month, I received the email and phone call to the company, and I call, like I said. And I am already for 27.
The Symphony of the Seas is the largest cruise ship in the world. She usually has about 6,000 passengers plus all the crew on board. How do you and your team manage to cook that much food for everybody?
Well, it's a big organization in the kitchen. As you know, I have 325 employees in my galley. And I have a sous chef, executive sous chef, a junior sous chef, all together then 20 of them. And what we did, we divide the station, we divide the group. Remember also we need to please the crew. So where I have also chef in charge for this station. But we please everybody and the way to make sure that everybody happy and everybody gets what he wants.
Mm-hmm. Anytime you're on a ship, there are new crew members coming on, old ones going off. How are those new members getting acquainted with the menus and the new items?
What we do, we have a rotation. I have 2 admin, 2 secretary in charge for rotate with the people, sign off, sign on. And as soon as we see the part level, we make sure that we don't sign off everybody together. So with the new crew members coming, we have somebody already all-timer working the ship from before. So this person coming 5, 10 is going vacation, 10 coming up. So these people training another one. So we give you a little bit background. Plus, we have a recipe in place where we have training program on board the ship. And I have a couple of chefs. As soon as the new crew member coming on board, these people take care about them.
There are a lot of different dining options throughout this ship. Do the chefs on board have a specific place they work, or do they get to rotate and experience all the different areas?
Well, like I say, I have some of this position, key position that we call executive sous chef, junior sous chef. Then we have CDP. CDP means what? It's a first cook one. So we divide everybody in different stations. You don't need to be specific. Each country you're gonna work in this place. We rotate them. We have in each venue one sous chef. In each venue we have a couple of cooks in charge, according with the experience and according with the knowledge each one of them have.
So with all the food you cook on board, there are a lot of ingredients involved. How do you go about ordering and storing all of those ingredients?
Yeah, we have master order that we create as per the experience and the long time working the cruise line, of course, according to the demographic of the guests that we're gonna have on board during the cruise. So we place the order, and we have the team on board, what we call inventory team, and we have also the group in Miami office. I place my order according to the amount of the guests what we have. We give it to them, then proceed to Miami, and Miami deliver it to us. Everything is accordingly to how many guests, how much guests we have during each single cruise.
So this ship is massive. There are dining venues all the way from the solarium in the top at the front to the main dining room in the back.
All over.
How are the kitchens organized throughout the ship?
Well, if you can see right now, we are sitting in the main restaurant, deck 5. And each floor, deck 5, deck 3, deck 4, each one of them has their own kitchen. Anywhere you go into the specialty restaurant, it has your own kitchen too. So each single venue, each single restaurant, it has your own kitchen, plus your own group of sous chef and chef working there.
And then, obviously, when you've got this much food being made for this many people, you can't just cook it the second they come in. So what kind of lead time do you have to get ready for all these dining services?
Right, so I have a 1, 2, 3 group. Let's say the people working for early morning, we have a start to working from 10 o'clock in the night all the way to 10 o'clock in the morning. Then other crew coming to working 9 o'clock in the morning all the way to 1:30, 2 o'clock, take a little break and come back again 5 o'clock in the afternoon to be ready for dinner. Then from 5 o'clock we have a break 7:30, we come back 8 o'clock, by 10 o'clock, 10:30 we are already out. Then another group starts same thing with the bakery, same thing with the pastries, same thing with the sauce, soup. So we have all group divided by the team. So we can cover everybody in the same time.
Yeah. With this much food being made, Royal Caribbean has developed a very high standard of quality for themselves. How do you ensure that the quality and the appearance of these dishes are as good at the first dish as it is on the last with every venue on board?
Well, that's what we call a teamwork. That's what we call working together as a team. We give you the recipe, we put everything in place, we do a food tasting. Every single day before we open the venue, we must to taste the food to make sure that we follow the picture. We have the recipe, we have everything in place. So we tasting the food with my chef, with my sous chef, with my CDP. So the quality there, say anything is not in place, everything is not as a company standard, we cannot serve that. We not tolerate that. We are really professional chef, professional sous chef in place, graduate, and very good background. So when this will do it really, really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You have to make food for 6,000 people, but at the same time, there are people that have one-off requests. How do you handle making those single dishes as well?
Well, we receive also in the beginning of the cruise was special, we call a special diet, special attention. I mean that was some gluten-free, dairy-free, plus with the guests coming sit down at our table, it gives you right away automatic information to the waiter, to the assistant waiter, to the maitre, the restaurant manager, and shall. And I have inside the galley a special corner and shall only just to prepare a special request. What I have there, I have a full cook plus one sous chef. Any special request come there, it goes through to this person. So we are not mixed together gluten with the regular food, so we have separate corner for this special request.
So you're currently on the Symphony of the Seas. What's next for you?
Well, to be honest to you, I reached a lot of target in my life. I think so. We're still looking for more, and the time we see. The time we see what is coming up. I know I still not finished yet, and we look forward for more.
Yeah. Is there anything that you'd like to tell the viewers before we go?
No, that's what I'm to say. Thank you so much. Royal Caribbean is one of the best to the best. I believe you're not gonna find nothing better than that. This ship is what we have exactly in this beautiful Symphony of the Sea. You're never gonna find nowhere else. Trust me. Here you have it so amazing, top like we call playmaker. We have the hook. We have here. This is amazing. We call it loco. There's so many things that we create in this beautiful ship that you're not gonna find nowhere else. It's family. You want to go to eat with your family, you have the restaurant for that. You want to eat by yourself, you have for there. So I want to tell you, this Roya is the best to the best, and wish you can enjoy, and I look forward to see you on board. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
So as always, I want to thank the chef taking some of his time out of his busy schedule to come talk to me about all the food on board. It really is incredible just how much they're able to create so quickly and efficiently to feed everybody on board, because there are a lot of people, a lot of venues, just a lot of things. And somehow it all comes together, and of course nobody goes hungry on a Royal Caribbean ship, because they got plenty of food from Sorrento's to the main dining room to the Windjammer all throughout the ship. So tomorrow, of course, is going to be Labadee, the day that the chef and his team make food on the island to serve a nice little beach picnic to everybody. So be sure to tune in tomorrow to see how Labadee goes. But first, I'm Derek Cohn, and stay tuned for the links.